Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Shayanka Allen, and I am the Workforce Development Program Director here at the Hospital Association of Southern California. Today, we are going to learn about apprenticeships, healthcare apprenticeships in particular. I know a lot of the times when we think of apprenticeship, we may not think of the healthcare sector, but healthcare apprenticeships are important and vital to hospitals as well. So this morning we are going to hear from three speakers, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about the roles of apprenticeships. We have two different apprenticeships that we're going to hear about today. So we're going to hear from Tasha Choi, and she's the project lead for Jobs Forward, and she's going to give you a high-level update on apprenticeships. Then we are going to have Alex Kabula. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, Alex. Special Project Coordinator for South Bay Workforce Investment Board, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the CNA apprenticeship. And then we're going to have Kelly Morris, VP of Client Services at Propel, and she's going to talk to us about their medical assistant apprenticeship that they have. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. If you guys have any questions after each speaker, please feel free to ask your questions. And again, like I mentioned before, I will be sharing the recording and the Gray, room 11, code gray. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to pass it off to Tasha.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to all the hospitals here. Thank you to Hospital Association of Southern California, South Bay WIB, Propel, all fantastic partners, and very excited to be here to kind of talk a little bit more about apprenticeship, get you guys acquainted with it at a high level. And yeah, so if you have questions, feel free to save them for the end after I'm done, or you're more than welcome to put it into the chat. I know that we'll take a look over there as well too to see if there's anything that comes up. So let's go ahead and get started. Next slide, please.
Oops, sorry. Pardon, I'm having some technical difficulties and I'm getting the
Oh.
loady thing, so just 1 second. Oh, there we go. Thank you
Awesome.
for waiting.
Thanks, Alex.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So just a quick overview of today's agenda. So I'm going to give an introduction apprenticeship from us at Job Forward. I'll primarily be going over a case study of healthcare apprenticeships, just so you get a feel and an idea of what apprenticeship looks like in the healthcare space. And then Alex will take over after that and talk about the CNA apprenticeship, which may be applicable to you. And if it is, we can get started on that right away. But of course, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about it first before we go ahead and do that. And then we also have a medical assistant apprenticeship success story that will be presented by Propel. So that was really exciting. All right, next slide, please. So just really quick, who is Job Forward? We are a industry intermediary. So we've been in this space for 25 plus years, providing workforce development consulting. And we are actually a nonprofit as well too. So we do a lot in apprenticeship all across the United States, program design, implementation, even when your program is already ongoing, that is something that we help out with as well too. And we also help out with grant funding support. We have a whole dedicated team that helps with that. So, I know that there might be hospitals in different regions. There's many different grants out there and opportunities that come up. We are very good at taking a look at that and see that if we can help you with that application and or managing that as well too. So just a few things that we've done. We have served many different programs in many different sectors with over 10,000 apprentices from those broad ranges of employers. And it's anywhere from small local businesses to bigger organizations. And it's great, honestly. It's really amazing to see over the years how apprenticeship has worked for many different organizations and the impact that it does for people. I think it's a really great movement. I know that in California, particularly, it's a really big movement. So really excited to help answer any questions and kind of go keep talking about it. And yeah, so like I said, we help with grant funding support as well too. We have familiarity with federal and state workforce grants. And of course, I have to mention the South Bay WIB is a absolutely fantastic partner. We work very, very closely with them, on their own standards and with our partners to provide technical assistance. So if that is something you're interested in, or just even afterwards, we can set up a session just to talk through what it may look like for your organization. We can do that. Next slide, please. Okay, so why registered apprenticeship, right? So the first 3 points you'll see here, one, it builds a competitive workforce. Two, it's a time-tested model. Three, it's adaptable and flexible. So in today's world, businesses are facing an ever-increasing global competition. Technologies and processes are rapidly evolving, with the introduction of AI and everything. I'm sure you've seen lots of changes going on, not just in your field, but in our everyday life as well, too. So that skilled labor pool is increasingly getting hard to find, which you might be familiar with. So meeting those needs means that we need to move at the speed of business, meaning businesses, employers, we need real-time, flexible, efficient ways to attract and keep the workforce skilled. So in this ever-changing landscape, upskilling is so important, and introducing these pathways for new hire training is really important as well too. So we really need to start thinking about how can we do this, and does the apprenticeship model fit into help address these workforce shortages, especially in critical industries such as healthcare, construction, information technology. All fields are really essential to, our nation's infrastructure and economic well-being. So by thinking about equipping participants with the skills and credentials needed for in-demand careers, we're not just meeting immediate labor needs, we're creating long-term economic mobility and stability for the apprentices, these individuals and their families. So apprenticeship is very flexible. I know that's like what is part of an apprenticeship program. There's a lot. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get to all of it today, but that's okay. That's what these individual TA sessions are that we offer. But I just want you to know that it is a flexible workforce development solution, and you can mold it and shape it in a way that will fit your employment needs of your organization in order to develop and sustain the talent that you have. We can use this model for incumbent, so existing employees, or it could be new hire employees as well too. So it works really great in both angles right there. Registered apprenticeship really leads into the buy versus build concept. So unlike traditional training models, registered apprenticeship directly connects learning to, a specific occupation or an employer need. For example, it might be harder to hire someone who has all the necessary skills and knowledge for the role, because it's competitive out there, right? But with apprenticeship, it allows the employer to build that exact talent needed, and especially how you want your organization, how you want your employees to be in your workforce. So therefore, their workforce has all the skills needed by that specific employer or industry. And then last but not least, registered apprenticeship brings a really structured training model. It lays it all out really nicely, and it really allows that worker shortage gap in certain sectors to be filled quickly, if not more efficiently. Next slide, please. So registered apprenticeship benefits, this is just really in a nutshell right here. I can go and talk a little bit more about this, but we want to think about, it's all about employment. So if there's no employer, there is no apprenticeship, right? Keeps it at the speed of business. Skills are key to any competitive workforce and allows you to put together a program that meets your needs that are adaptable and flexible. You'll see that there are benefits to all parties involved. So of course, there is the employer. You're building your workforce, as I mentioned. It can help reduce turnover and recruitment costs. It can improve productivity and worker retention, and also strengthens alignment with education and training systems. Benefits to workers, the apprentices, this is where I really see a lot that happens in that magic. It's that career pathway into a stable, high demand job. They're increasing their skills. They're on a wage progression. They are advancing in opportunities where They learn through all the stuff to get to this occupation right here. Let's just say like a CNA, for example, maybe they want to keep going within your organization to do other roles. So it's kind of like it just keeps going. So there is that stackable pathway that's very sustainable. And also apprenticeship is a very supportive and structured learning environment. When you actually build out your apprenticeship program, your appendices for that specific occupation, it's laid out. You say what those competencies and skills you want them to learn. You lay out the actual courses you want them to learn as well too. And so, apprenticeship matters. It expands the opportunities for underrepresented and underserved groups. You can tap into pipelines that maybe you haven't tapped into before. It could be in your community as well too. Um, you're addressing any shortages or challenges that you have in your industry. Again, long-term economic mobility as well too. And it does contribute to national and state workforce development strategies. So if you've heard anything on the news or anything like that, apprenticeship is definitely up and coming a lot in recent news. Next slide, please. Okay, so I went through that really quickly. I know that apprenticeship is a lot, but I just kind of want to again say that you'll have the opportunity to learn more if you want to, and that is at no cost to you afterwards. So let's keep going. We're going to continue talking about healthcare apprenticeships specifically. So now that we went over a high-level overview of registered apprenticeships, some of the benefits, we'll go ahead and touch on healthcare apprenticeships as I think that's most relatable to our audience today and share some of the successes we've seen and support it with. So the previous slides, you may have connected with many elements of apprenticeship. Maybe you got some thoughts going. And you're like, oh yeah, that is applicable to us. So hopefully that keeps going as we go through these next slides with everyone else as well too. So these are just some examples of occupations we have seen turned into apprenticeship programs, medical coding, pharmacy tech, medical assistant, phlebotomist, CNA, of course. Looks like I forgot to put that bullet in there as well too. And then a lot of times what we see with these healthcare apprenticeship is that it turns into the train the trainer model. So apprentices that go through these programs end up being the journey workers for the new and upcoming apprentices and so forth right here. Excuse me. So yeah, as you're thinking about it, the apprenticeship model is not so much of a stretch in the healthcare sector if you think about the following. One, early career development. Growth and opportunities are embedded already for incumbent employees. This is just another wrapping layer on top of it. Two, a preceptor model. Oftentimes, you have people already in your clinics that help guide along new hires, and they provide guidance and leadership. A built-in wage progression. So time spent within an organization, transitioning different roles. There are those tiered stackable wages that go on as you stay on with the organization. On-the-job learning, as we all know, healthcare, you're on your toes. There's always something new to learn. There's never an end of not things to learn, right? So there's always things to do on the job and keep that education going. And then speaking of education, there's always continuing education as well. Healthcare involves a lot of CEs. There's a lot of things you need to maintain, whether it's a yearly basis or maintaining certifications for hours. So hopefully that sounds somewhat familiar. Next slide, please. Okay, so I want to present with you a case study of a healthcare apprenticeship program. This is one that Job4 has actually helped out with. I didn't help per se because it's many, many years ago, but they still have a successful program going on right now. And I will share the actual case study link for you. It's quite a long document, but it highlights a lot of successful apprenticeship case studies, not just in healthcare, but in other industries. So really good read if you're interested in. It does highlight this particular healthcare organization. So we've worked with multiple healthcare organizations in implementing successful apprenticeship programs in healthcare sector. This one in particular is one of the largest healthcare systems in New Hampshire and Vermont, as well as the healthcare network that is countrywide. So specifically, this one would be the New Hampshire Dartmouth Hitchcock program. So for them, their biggest challenge many years ago was that they had a shortage of qualified medical assistants. They just simply did not have enough. And the problem with that was that their providers and doctors and nurses were performing these basic support tasks because they simply did not have the MAs to help support and contribute, cover basic tasks. Um, and so with that, we decided to kind of talk to them about apprenticeship. And they were maybe a little bit skeptical first. It's like, is this really going to work, right? I think that's one of the biggest questions that come up with partners and organizations. It's like, is this going to work? Sure enough, they gave it a shot. And so this is what happened. So with recruitment, they kind of did a different approach. They did a more grassroots approach. They ended up having a candidate pool of 150 people for their very first cohort. And they did cohorts of 15 to 20 apprentices at a time. A comprehensive training course and a competency-based apprenticeship curriculum was offered to these apprentices. And so the way they did that in the very first phase, it was 11-week pre-employment classroom training. So as you can see right here, it's 3 weeks in the classroom. Then they began clinical shadowing. And then after week 11, they took the CCMA exam. And I will say the percentage of them completing their CCMA exam is usually in the 90 percentile. I will add I myself have helped with a medical assistant apprenticeship program. I've helped apprentices in the classroom here in Nevada with another very large healthcare organization. And the very first cohort that I helped support with, it was 100% pass on the CCMA exam with a cohort of about 19 apprentices. So that was fantastic. Um, so continuing back to this specific case study, though, pay raises were awarded at 6 months and then about 6 months later, contingent upon their demonstration of clearly articulating the competencies laid out in the apprenticeship program, and of course, at the completion of the program as well. As apprentices, MAs typically spend about 1 year in this on-the-job training before taking the RMA exam and graduating. You may be familiar that most MA certification programs out there are about 2 years, and it doesn't necessarily help support with on-the-job training as well too, or that employment piece. But in this case with apprenticeship, it does, because you need to think about apprenticeship means employment. You don't start them off right away at the full wage. You start them a little bit lower, but it works out very nicely that way. Lots of info. I'm happy to talk more about this, and I will definitely share a link. I think someone had shared it perhaps right here. It's really great. I think it's on page 30 or 90, something like that. Thank you. All right, next slide, please. I just really want to, oh, previous slide. Awesome. Really quick on Dartmouth-Hitchcock's results and cost benefits. So at the very end, Dartmouth-Hitchcock was able to save about $12,800 per apprentice because of the grant funding that was applicable to them at that time, and also paid a lower hourly wage rate for apprentices than for fully qualified or experienced workers. So adjusting for the grants and per apprentice cost of the apprenticeship program, that was about $47,000, approximately $10,000 more than hiring fully trained MAs. And then Alex will talk a little bit more about funding opportunities and things like that, because there are opportunities around apprenticeship space. So I would like you guys to keep that in mind. So just keeping over right here on this slide though. So the successes ended up having like reduced overtime costs, because the local labor market was unable to supply MAs before the apprenticeship program started. Dartmouth-Hitchcock had to resort to more expensive alternative, which is paying the providers overtime to carry out those MA tasks. But before the apprenticeship program began, Dartmouth-Hitchcock estimated it was paying about $36 an hour in overtime or more expensive labor costs. Once it began its apprenticeship program, the company was able to fill in those MA vacancies, and even during the first cohort of apprentices. Dartmouth-Hitchcock was also able to reduce its overtime charges by a significant amount. So we assume that at least one MA hour saved $24 per hour in overtime charges. Of course, this varies between organizations and whatnot, but if you can think about that, that's a big saving, right? Two, it reduced that physician turnover. The apprenticeship program allowed Dartmouth-Hitchcock to implement its team-based care model. So, according to Dartmouth-Hitchcock, the new care model improved their ability to schedule more procedures and appointments. They achieved a balanced MA to provider ratio, and it definitely helped the recruitment and retention of the providers. Um, Awesome. And let me just make sure this last point right here. And last but not least, there's so much benefits to it, but it definitely increased the primary care appointments booked. So following the implementation of the third apprentice cohort, their booked hours in general internal meds were about 760 hours per month higher than it was before the team-based care program began. So as you can see, a lot of time has been saved, a lot of money was saved, and they are also able to fill in that shortage of MAs in their program. To this day, they still have active apprenticeship programs. They don't only do MA programs, but they do quite a few other ones as well too. It's a very successful model. Next slide, please. This is just a quick little visual. I like to give some color and stats and everything just to kind of highlight, what it looks like and the benefits of investing in your talent or workforce. So, 91% improved employee loyalty, also known as retention. When you have someone and foster them in an apprenticeship program, especially from they may have not known very much to now they're fully fledged CCMA, passing MA apprentice, it's fantastic, right? You see that loyalty and they want to keep doing more and learning more. Seeing in the classroom is fantastic, honestly. Productivity at 87%, 8% reduced turnover, 78% increase in innovation, 74% more on-time delivery, and about $144 return on investment for every $100 invested by the employer. Now, I'm not saying these might be the exact numbers that you will get if you do happen to decide to do your apprenticeship program. It does take a little bit of time, but if you give it a chance in time, you will see these positive outcomes and percentages, hopefully for your organization as well too. Next slide, please. So apprenticeship, there's a lot of ways to go about it. You can be your own sponsor. You can use someone else to be their sponsor, and you're simply just an employer. There's many different ways. I have a few other slides that shows all the possibilities of how to get going on an apprenticeship program. But we pulled this one in particular because it's the most applicable. In this presentation right here. As you all may know, the South Bay WIB does have a CNA apprenticeship program that's already approved with the Department of Labor. You could quite easily use your standards for the CNA program, for example, and then you would be the employer as the hospital organization. And then, of course, we would work with the related instruction provider as well, too. But if the you as a hospital organization wants to be your very own sponsor, we can help out with that as well too. So we just want to say there's so much flexibility in apprenticeship. Not everything, but a lot is possible. All right, next slide, please.
Great. Thanks, Tasha. That's a really good segue. It's a really good segue to what the WIB does because we are a sponsor and we do provide services related to this model of apprenticeship. So good job, Tasha. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone has questions too, I believe Shayanka, we were gonna wait till the end, right?
Yes, we can wait to the end, or you can put them in the chat. But
Oh, great, right. Thank you. Well, as Shayanka had mentioned earlier, my name is Alex Kabalu, and I work with the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. I've been here for a couple of years. The SBWIB has been here since 1982, so they have 40 years plus of serving South Bay cities. So those are 11 cities, and there are four America's job career centers in California. They are in Gardena, Torrance, Carson, and Inglewood. And we have a lot of grants that we use for various uh, ends to help folks find jobs, whether they are approaching us at the job centers or through the colleges and the different employers. What I do is I work in special projects and I work primarily and particularly with apprenticeships, but um, being special projects, we also delve out into the WIB's different various projects as well. So, like I said, the WIB is an apprenticeship sponsor and intermediary. As Tasha said before, we do have occupations, apprenticeships registered with not only the Department of Labor, but also the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. That's the California um, agency that runs and oversees apprenticeships. Back to the DOL, to the Department of Labor, we also are a workforce board that has nationally recognized standards. So we can actually work outside of California, and we can work with businesses and hospitals outside of the state. Um, we're an awardee and manager of numerous federal and state workforce grants, which Tasha did mention that we'll talk about at the end of my presentation. In fact, my colleague Dylan Ferris may be joining us in a couple of minutes to talk about his grants, um, of which we're working with HASC as well. So we again want to thank HASC for giving us the time and the um, the platform to talk about our grants and see how we can best align with you. And last but not least, we work very closely with Job Forward as Tasha mentioned, through the Apprenticeships Building America grant, and that is something that we also work with HASC to expand and develop apprenticeships in the state. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm the one pressing the slides. There we go. So, not to be too redundant, but I just want to stress the fact that we are very flexible in how we can work with you, the hospitals, being that we do have registered apprenticeships, but we present those to you, and I will show you in just a couple of slides. Now that we're a little bit more familiar with apprenticeship, so thanks, Job Forward, um, what those competencies may look like in just a minute, and if they don't exactly align with what you're doing at your firm already, we can talk together and adjust those to fit your needs. And so that makes it very flexible and customizable. As Job Forward mentioned, it's a great recruitment and retention tool. The training plan's written, but you know, the kind of services that we provide add another layer of care that your employees may feel in their development as a professional. And that's something that I've witnessed just in my work. They get to know us and they understand that they will be getting certifications, such as the ones on this screen. The one on the left comes from the Department of Labor. The one on the right has a really cool like sticker seal that shines in the light from the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. These are portable certificates that any apprentice that once they become a journey worker can use at any of the jobs that they in the related field going forward. One of the hallmarks of apprenticeship, I'll just start at the bottom again, is that they will receive scheduled wage increases, and we can talk about that as you as the employer and us as the sponsor. We just talked about the certificates, and there are ways also to create scaffolding and tiers within an occupation, whether they're a new graduate or an apprentice graduate of their program. And last but not least, because this is going to be the last and perhaps the most important thing that I talk about today in this portion of the presentation, is the way that you can access a number of the numerous grants that we have available and that we are still applying for, because the WIB is always applying for grants and we're very successful in achieving those because of our track record over the years. And again, here's an example of an apprenticeship and how it's structured. I have the first part highlighted because it may be necessary for someone who is new to the role, if they don't have their certification or their license or any training, for them to do that. But if you have incumbent workers who are you're looking to upskill them, they may already have their license and training. So that's why that's highlighted. But as Tasha mentioned, that could take 11 weeks. Um, Tasha, it was weeks, right? Not months.
Weeks, yes.
Yeah, okay, good, good. All right, thank you. 11 weeks, and then followed by the actual apprenticeship, which could be up to 1 year, which in the next couple of slides we'll go over technical and behavioral competencies, and they need to achieve all of those within 1 year. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, they will get their certificates and the wage progression, which comprises two separate and distinct wage increases. So what happens during the pre-apprenticeship? The pre-apprenticeship, which will term the related skill instruction that comes from a school, a state-approved CNA training program, as you're all familiar, if you are working with CNAs. Um, we amounted to 144 hours, which is the standard for these apprenticeships, and we break it down as such. And we can also provide credit for prior experience and credit for prior learning, like I mentioned a little while ago. But there are 6 topics with various hours that add up to 144, all of which is flexible. Good afternoon, Dylan. That is Dylan. It says my name there on his, but Dylan, I mentioned earlier, is another manager in special projects who is in charge of and managing 2 grants that we'll mention in just a little bit after we talk about some of the technical competencies. Here are 8 technical competencies that are, if we could please mute, thank you. Thanks, Shad. These are 8 examples of technical competencies that are written into the appendix in the occupation. Of course, like I mentioned before, they are flexible, and we can have discussions about whether or not to include those or add others. This serves as an onboarding checklist for your staff, or what new CNAs need to be able to do. So your role as the employer, obviously, this is what you already do. You need to ensure that an individual can demonstrate all of these within a year. And then we have the soft skills, otherwise known as behavioral competencies, which are basic skills that most, if not all, employees need to have at any job. And there are 32 total, but I didn't put all of them, but you can see from this example that what the timbre of what we're expecting. And we, as the sponsor, work with you, the employer, to have you sign off on these with regular meetings, not too many meetings. We know you're very busy, but regular meetings to track the progress of your apprentice. And at this point, I'd just like to invite Dylan to jump on in. I'm going to put the next slide up, and there are actually, it says 5 grants, but there's 6 grants. And Dylan, would you be comfortable talking about these? Thanks for joining.
Sure. Happy to be here, everyone. Sorry I was late. I had a conflicting meeting. My name is Dylan Ferris. As Alex mentioned, I'm one of the project managers here at the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. And in addition to the work that we do in the apprenticeship space, we also have grants that are specifically for preparing individuals and getting them started in allied health professions. So I'll start with talking about just 2 grants we have. We have the Health Flex High Roads Training Partnership Grant. We secured that. It started back in July. We have it for 2 years. It's a $5 million grant, and it's a grant that is used to support, we're going to get 1,000 people into healthcare professions. So about half of those will have their training subsidized. So what training they go to with a training provider to get certified, we'll pay for that. And the other half, we're going to offer OJT, on-the-job training funds, to our employer partners. And so I just wanted to take a moment to explain, as we're talking about apprenticeship, and we have a number of grants that offer kind of a modest incentive for agencies that are hosting apprentices. Where you really start to see some added value is when you put together the other offerings that we have. So the way the workforce development agencies typically operate to get people subsidized employment opportunities is twofold. One, we have something called paid work experience. And these are situations, it's basically a paid internship where using our funds, WIOA dollars or grant funds, an individual will technically be our employee, and then you, as the employer, get to host them for a certain amount of time. And it allows that individual to get a work experience. It might be like a, not to be uncouth, but a try before you buy situation for employers where they get to get an experience with an individual and see if they might be a good fit for you. But it also gets experience for those individuals to put on their resume that helps them get into that first job. The other thing that we do, so let me just reiterate that. Paid work experience is all on we're the employer of record, and it's all on our dime. They're on our payroll, they're not on yours. And that's for a limited number of hours. Typically, it might be around 200 hours. And it's like, again, paid work experience. The other thing we do is called on-the-job training. And on-the-job training is when you, as the employer, are hiring individuals into a position, but you're going to be providing them some training into these roles that you've hired them into. And we can subsidize that for you. So when they're being hired and you're going to hold on to them, we can basically reimburse you a portion of their wages. And the idea is, we're incentivizing you to take on some of the participants that are our participants, right? The people that are coming through us to get trained and to find employment. And there are kind of target demographics that we're trying to support. So I needed to lay that out because those things can work with pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship. So while most of our apprenticeship grants are not going to pay the wages of the people that you're hiring, our other grants can through on-the-job training. And so what that looks like is we put them in an on-the-job training slot as they enter that apprenticeship, and then you're getting both of those benefits. So, we invite you to explore more with us and kind of, see where there's a room to partner. As I said, we have 2 healthcare grants right now that are going to support training, paid work experience, and OJT that could pair nicely with our apprenticeship grants. And then I'll turn it back over to Alex to kind of hit what those apprenticeship grants do offer.
Thanks, Dylan. That was great. On that note, since we were talking about the healthcare grants, I just thought it was very important to mention our partner, West LA College, is applying for a new Chancellor's Apprenticeship. I wrote that wrong there. It's the Chancellor's Apprenticeship Initiative, the second one. And they also have an RN apprenticeship that's registered through the state of California, and they can help to offset some of the costs of training there. So I want to put that out there for the video and for everybody who's here, obviously, as well. But so going from the top, and we're reaching the end, is we have the California Opportunity Youth Apprenticeships 1 and 2. So these are state sponsored grants. So we will need to use a partner like West LA College, who has registered apprenticeships with the state, but that has funds available for employers and training providers and supportive services to apprentices. So if anyone is interested in that, we will be giving the information for reaching out to us right after this. We also have, as I mentioned, the Chancellor's Apprenticeship Initiative, the CAI, the Health Flex through West LA College. That's $1,000 to $2,000 per apprentice. That's paid to the employer for California registered apprentices, which expires very soon. And last but not least, and one of the reasons why we are able to convene so nicely here, is the DOL's Apprenticeship Building America grant, which expires this June 2026. And that is for Department of Labor registered apprentices, which the WIB does have, and we would be able to register them easily and effectively after we talk with you, the employers. And the staff time and the materials that you are spending on your training your apprentices, we would allow you to get reimbursed for that. And we can actually also use this grant to help you to become a sponsor if you are interested. So those are two separate things. And yeah, I believe that is the end of our portion. We'd like to share with you our information. You can scan the QR code and it'll take you to a place that you can quickly get one of our numbers. It's actually my number. Dylan, I'll have to add your QR code if you have one later. But thank you. And now I'd like to transition over to our great partners over at Propel America. And that's Kelly Boucher-Morris, Vice President.
Thank you so much. And Alex, actually, would you mind if I shared my screen? I made a few updates to the slides after we met yesterday.
I don't mind. I will stop sharing right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Shayanka. Thank you so much for setting this time up. Tasha and Alex, I feel like we need to do all of our presentations together forevermore because you already said all the things that I usually say in my presentations. Do you all see slides? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Well, I'm really excited to share a little bit about the work that we do at Propel America on apprenticeships. And as Tasha mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to set up an apprenticeship program. At Propel America, we act as an intermediary. So we bring different organizations together to help employers bring in apprentices and get them hired up into roles that they need to fill. So we know that hospitals and health systems in Southern California are part of sort of a broader national trend around a staffing crisis for allied health roles. So we know that for roles specifically like medical assistant, you need to hire medical assistants all the time. And so we offer a solution for that. We see building an apprenticeship program in partnership with us as an opportunity for you to fill those medical assisting vacancies, reduce your turnover by bringing in apprentices who will stay with the organization, not just through the apprenticeship, but for years to come. And then also, as Tasha mentioned, really boost staff morale and patient satisfaction by bringing in really motivated young folks who are from your community and are really excited to serve your patients. A little bit about Propel. We're a nonprofit organization and we're on a mission to help solve the healthcare staffing crisis in this country by helping young people access careers to healthcare in their own communities. We are a national organization. We're in 5 different states, but right now we do offer programming in Los Angeles. Right now we partner closely with the Community Clinic Association of LA County to offer a couple different medical assisting pathways, but the one that's most pertinent to this call is our medical assistant apprenticeship program that we offer with them. Right now we have apprentices who are placed with Valley Community Healthcare, Via Care, Care Clinic, and LA Christian Health Centers. At Propel, we work specifically with Opportunity Youth. And so these are young folks who have traditionally lacked access to healthcare. The typical Propel fellow is 22 years old, identifies as female, and identifies as a person of color. Typically, our fellows have been out of high school for a few years, working sometimes in healthcare, but sometimes in retail or in restaurants, and they have a passion for healthcare, and they are ready to get on a path to a career, and they find their way to Propel and come join one of our programs. This is a quick overview of the model that we have in place for all of our programs. So first, we work to find young folks who are ready for their career journey. We work closely with high schools and community organizations to find folks who want to apply. Once a young person applies to our program, we put them through a rigorous selection process to make sure this is the right time for them and that to make sure that they can be successful. We then put all of our candidates through a 4-week training program that gets them job ready. So we're focusing on communication, being accountable, problem solving, etc. So we make sure that when they start work, they are going to be successful. And then we connect all of our young folks with a training program. Propel doesn't do the training, but we work closely with training providers and certification programs who do the training for us. And then last but definitely not least, we provide a lot of support to our fellows around just getting a job. So preparation for interviews, resumes, and all of that, so that by the time they show up to you all, they are ready to land the job. The secret sauce, if you will, for what we do at Propel is our coaching and our professional development. So every Propel fellow gets an individual coach who's with them for the duration of their program. For our apprenticeship, as you'll see in a few slides, it's a 14-month apprenticeship, and their coach stays with them for the entirety of those 14 months. They also get additional professional development while they're in the program with us. So it starts with that 4-week course, but they also do additional professional development sessions throughout the duration of their program to make sure their professional skills are staying strong. So when we talk about our apprenticeships, we really see those as a shared investment. So we ask that our employers pay apprentice wages. As Tasha mentioned, apprentices are paid employees. So we ask that the employers pay those wages, and then also provides on-the-job training for the apprentice through an on-site mentor. On the Propel side, we cover full tuition for their certification program, as well as just setting up that training partner relationship and getting apprentices enrolled into the program. As I mentioned before, we provide professional development and coaching. We also provide support and training for mentors. We know a lot of times employers can get a little bit overwhelmed at the work that it takes just to make sure a mentor is giving the right support to their apprentice. So we provide a lot of support there. And then, of course, we do all the really painful paperwork and reporting responsibilities. This is a quick overview of our apprenticeship program. It starts off, obviously, with us recruiting young people and making sure that they're ready for the program. Once they are hired and into apprentice role, they spend the first 6 months as at the first level of apprentice. And so they're working on the floor with our employer partners while they're also going through a certification program. Our program is designed so that they are doing certification and working for the first 6 months, and they are ready to pass their certification exam at the end of that 6 months. Once they pass their certification exam, they move into the second phase of their apprenticeship from months 7 through 14. And here they're really working pretty independently. They've already become a certified MA, but they still do work under supervision of a mentor so that they can fill their apprenticeship requirements and get those certificates that Alex showed, those like shiny foil stamps. They're working for those. At the end of our apprenticeship, our apprentices are eligible to move into a full MA role with your organization. This is another way to look at the apprenticeship program. This is more around like dollared schedules. So for the first 6 months, our apprentices earn the minimum wage for healthcare worker in the state of California. And they're working 4 days a week on the floor as an apprentice, and they have Fridays off to do their certification coursework. In the second phase of the apprenticeship, they are essentially working as a certified MA apprentice on the floor, again, as I mentioned, under the supervision of their mentor. And usually we do a pay bump at that point. It's usually some point in between minimum wage and whatever the starting MA rate is. And then once the program is over, they're eligible to be moving into that full MA rate. We work closely with Loyola Marymount University and Prestige Career College for our apprenticeship program that's based in LA. If we are working outside of LA, we have options to find some other training providers who can do the in-person skill lab. But of all of our apprentices, they do an online certification program with Loyola Marymount University, and then they do in-person skills development with Prestige Career College or another partner that's more local to where they are. This just really quickly is a snapshot of how our different employer partners kind of structure the role. We can really customize how this role looks for your organization based on what your needs are. Some of our employer partners, they'll create brand new roles in their organization, apprentice 1 and apprentice 2, they'll hire fellows or apprentices into those roles. We have other employers who kind of hire apprentices into like a non-certified MA role. And they just extend the onboarding period for that role. And then we have other employers who do more of a hybrid role. So they hire them into like a front office coordinator or like a front desk manager role. And then they kind of have a hybrid role where they're doing those front desk duties for part of the day. And then they're doing job shadowing for the other part of the day. And as they develop their skills as an MA, they move more and more off the desk and into the clinical responsibilities on the floor. These are two of our apprentices right now who are in our fall cohort, Hennessy and Jocelyn. And what's important to note is that when we are launching our apprenticeship program, we seek apprentices who already have some healthcare experience. If they don't have healthcare experience, they have pretty significant work experience. The intention is there is that the apprentices can get up to speed really quickly. So Hennessy is a licensed phlebotomy technician. She's already bringing quite a bit of healthcare experience into her apprenticeship role, but she has a long-term goal of becoming a practice manager. And so she was really excited to get into the MA role so that she could get some skills that are aligned with that long-term vision. Jocelyn, already a certified nursing assistant, but want to increase her skills and get additional certification. So she's entered our apprenticeship program, but again, really able to bring a lot of value to the floor on the first day of apprenticeship. I won't talk too much about funding because we've talked a lot about funding, but we Propel have some of the funding that Dylan and Alex mentioned earlier. We are a COYA grant recipient, California Opportunity Youth Award recipient. And so our grant does have some funding that is for employers. So we are at the end of our first year grant. We'll be applying for our second year grant. So assuming that's awarded, we'll have some funding for employers there as well. But our fellows also do tend to be eligible for the work opportunity tax credit. So if that's something that you pursue as an employer, our fellows typically do receive that as well. So we have our next cohort of apprentices starting in September of 26, which means that they'll be ready for you all to interview in July. So if you're interested in exploring this opportunity, please reach out. We would love to spend the next few months figuring out how to make this work for you and your organization. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Tasha, Dylan, and Alex for presenting. So we have a few minutes left. Is there any questions for any of our presenters that you guys might have? Again, like I mentioned, I will be sending the recording over as well as the slides that were shared. So if there's any questions that you can't think of now, you'll have everyone's contact information to reach out to them as well. Okay, so far, no questions. Any last words from any of our presenters? Alex, Tasha, Kelly, Dylan?
It was great being on here. I hope that it was helpful. And then we do hope you reach out, whether it's just to even ask general questions or see if it could possibly work, or even being a thought partner. That's definitely something that we can do.
Thank you, Tasha. Okay, well, if that is all, we'll give you guys 4 minutes back. Again, thank you everyone for attending and learning more about the apprenticeship model. This is a great opportunity for your hospital. It's great, especially upskilling as well. So if you have any staff that, maybe in housekeeping or working in the cafeteria who may be interested in upskilling, these are some great programs that may be able to assist. Okay, so with that said, I will thank you guys again for attending and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Tisha.
Okay. All right,
Thank you,
bye. We'll
everyone.
be in touch.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.